Welcome to the new online OPDS Invoice submission form. It's replacing all of the old manual fee statement forms. It will provide new features, such as system-generated notices that let you know when an invoice has been received, or if there are issues or clarification is needed, and when processing is completed and transferred for payment. Other benefits OPDS will see are better tracking of payment processing times, and identifying where there may be delays or other issues. And of course, this new form is an electronic format rather than the old manual fee statement forms, so no more need to download, print, and handwrite a fee statement. There are drop-down menus for many selections, including rates, and the form even does some math for you too. Okay, before we get into the video itself, I want to let you know a couple of things. The video is divided into different sections based on various needs. We have links in the description below that you can use to navigate to the desired section. In addition to this video, we have written procedures to help you, which are available on our website. Now, we understand that this is a big change, and we want to make sure you have the tools needed to make a successful transition. Okay, I've already got the form open and I am ready to begin. When you open the form, you'll be presented with the very first section already open. For training purposes, I've gone ahead and collapsed that, and that is where we'll begin. First, let's take a look at the structure of the form itself. You'll notice that it's divided into 8 different tabs. These tabs are indicated with a number. We will go into each tab as we proceed through the video, but we'll begin on the Vendor Information tab. It's important to note that the Vendor Information tab must be completed by everyone submitting an invoice for payment. This includes all vendor types and all invoice types. Okay, we're going to start by selecting the vendor type. Select Counsel for attorney fees and expenses. For other service providers, choose Service Provider. For multiple counsel related to a contract, choose Administrator. And please note throughout the form, anytime you see a red asterisk, that means that that item is required. And if you do happen to miss any of the required fields, when you select Submit at the end, an error like this one will appear. Next up is the vendor number. You're going to enter the vendor number assigned to you by the Department of Administrative Services. Be sure you put the whole 13-digit number in there, including the dash. If you don't happen to know your number, you can contact Accounts Payable at opds.state.or.us. So if you selected Counsel to begin with, be sure to fill in the OSB number as well, because as you can see, it's required. Next up is the last name and/or business name. You're going to either enter in the last name of an individual vendor or a business name of a business vendor. Click Yes on the slider if the submitter's email address is different from the vendor's email address. Enter the vendor's email address, and if the submitter's email address is different, also enter the submitter's email address. For invoice type, you're going to select the appropriate invoice type from the drop-down menu. For more information on these invoice types, please refer to Appendix 1 of the written procedures. It's important to note that the invoice type you select has an impact on what options are available throughout the form. NRE authorization number. Enter the authorization number related to services and expenses on the attached invoice. It's important to note that the system will not allow an NRE authorization number to be used more than once. This is required for all non-routine invoice types. Notice of adjustment info submission. Now this slider defaults to no. Select yes if you are submitting missing information or are requesting clarification related to a notice of adjustment received for a previously submitted invoice. For the county field, you're going to choose the assigned county for counsel or the county where services were performed for non-attorney service providers. For the beginning and ending invoice service dates, you can go ahead and select the calendar icon and choose from the calendar menu, or simply type in the date. So that wraps up the Vendor Information tab. Be sure to go back and review all of your fields to make sure they're accurate. The Appellate Panel tab. This tab is not required for any of the invoice types other than the routine Appellate Panel invoice type. So, if you did not select it, you can go ahead and pass this particular tab. If you did select it, however, you'll need to fill in from the drop-down menus of Counsel Fee Type and the Status drop-down. Case and Appointment Information. This tab is required for those vendors that are submitting for a single client. The first drop-down is the most serious case type. Now there may be multiple cases, but you will select the most serious case type which aligns with our caseload reporting. Then enter the trial court case number and or appellate court case number that you're submitting an invoice for. Then the client's name and appointment date. The appointment date is required for the counsel vendor type only. On a side note, it's important to understand that all of the drop-down menus within this form are active. If you type the beginning letter of any item within the drop-down, it will automatically go to that item. The fee and expense summary tabs are broken out into 4 groups. Only complete information required for the selected vendor and invoice type. The entries into these tabs are a summary of the total amount detailed on the attached invoice. For instance, the summary amount entered for counsel fees is 5 hours at $75 per hour, which calculates out at $375. The invoice must provide the following detail: the type of services provided, with the rates itemized by date in tenths or hundredths of an hour. It's important to note the counsel travel time is linked to their service time and service hours, and not to travel expenses. The Other Services Summary tab is for any other service providers, folks like case managers, interpreters, investigators, experts, professionals, etc. Now, this section is like all of the rest of the sections on this form. It performs the same. You will see fields, you will see some areas with drop-down menus, and you also see to the far right a calculated column, those of which that are gray will automatically calculate for you. The NRE, or non-routine expense approved rate, is a pre-authorized rate. Now, there's been some questions about when there's multiple years and different rates for those years. In that situation, you can enter the subtotal for the other rates on the invoice. Next up is the Out-of-Pocket Expenses Summary tab. This tab must be completed for allowable expenses, things like photocopies, DVDs, etc. The fields behave just like the other fields on this form, where you can put in the quantity and then the rate from the drop-down. Again, the calculation will be created for you. If the expense is not listed as an individual line item, list in Other Out-of-Pocket Expenses. This must be completed by all vendors and invoice types that are invoicing for reimbursement of out-of-pocket expenses. The Travel Expenses Summary tab. Now this is where travel-related expenses are captured for things like lodging, meal allowance, mileage, etc. Now down below at the bottom, if there's something that doesn't match those first 3 fields, you can go ahead and type in the amount invoiced associated with any attached receipts, things like parking, rental car, etc. Please keep in mind that this must be completed by all vendor and invoice types that are invoicing for reimbursement of travel expenses. And finally, we have the Grand Total and Attachments tab. On this tab, you'll notice in the green area, there is a grand total shown. This grand total should match up with your invoice. The invoice and any related receipts and or documentation must be attached to the form by dragging a chosen file into that attachment file box, or by clicking on Select Files and then selecting the file. And be sure before you click on Submit that you check the I Certify box towards the bottom of the form, and then Submit. If everything was correct, you should now see a successful form submission banner. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video and familiarize yourself with the new invoice submission form. This concludes the form overview. In the following segments, we have provided 2 scenarios that go through examples of what a submission might look like. Okay, for our first scenario, we're going to go ahead and start by selecting the vendor type of counsel. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and put in our vendor number. That's 13 digits. The dash is provided for you. Since this is counsel, we're going to also add the OSB number and then proceed on to the last name. And then from there, we're going to go ahead and move on down to the vendor email address, get that populated. For the invoice type, we're going to go ahead and choose routine from the drop-down menu. No NRE number is required. Our county is then selected. The beginning and ending service dates are next. We'll go ahead and put in October 1st and October 31st for the end date. Now, instead of clicking next at this point, I'm going to go ahead and select the actual tab number instead. That way I can avoid having to fill in tabs that aren't necessary for this particular invoice submission. And then from here, our case and appointment information. If I type in a couple of letters here, you'll notice it just narrows down my search, where I can go ahead and then select it from the drop down. And then we'll go ahead and put in our trial court case number. Once that's finished, I'll go ahead and put in the client name and then our appointment date. From there, I'll go ahead and select Next. Here on the Counsel Fees and Expenses Summary, we'll go ahead and put in the amount of hours and then at what rate. From there, it'll go ahead and calculate for me. If that's all I'm going to be doing for this particular situation, I will go ahead and select Out-of-Pocket Expenses Summary tab. We'll go ahead and put in DVDs that were purchased. If you put in the number, you'll notice the drop-down provides the rate for you. Go ahead and select that from the drop-down menu. And again, the calculation will occur automatically for you. If you're satisfied with that, you go ahead and select Next, and that'll take us to the Travel Expenses Summary. We'll go ahead and put in our miles. Of course, the rate drop-down, selecting the appropriate time frame here. In this case, I'm going to choose 2021, and then select Next. After that, I'll be on the grand total. Well, I'll double-check the totals number compared against my documentation and receipts, and then from there, I'm going to go ahead and select Files, and I would attach those files at this point. Okay, from here, we're going to go ahead and select I Certify, and then Submit. If everything was correct, you should now see a successful form submission banner. For scenario 2, we're going to go ahead and choose Service Provider as our vendor type. And that's how we'll begin. Next, the vendor number will be added. Then, the name of the business. In this case, Best Investigation. From there, we'll add the email address. Next is the invoice type of non-routine. From there, we're going to add our NRE number, then the county. If you type the beginning letter from the county name should appear. From there, our begin and end invoice service dates. In this case, we're going to choose November 1st through November 30th. And move on to the case and appointment information. Most serious case type, the trial court case number, the client name, and then the appointment date is not applicable. So we'll move on to the other services summary, where we're going to add an investigation of 33 hours. The rate for the investigation is non-capital, so we'll choose that from the drop-down menu, and you'll see it automatically calculates that total for us. From there, we'll move down and go to the out-of-pocket expenses summary. We're going to go ahead and choose postage, shipping, and records this time, with a total amount of $50. Next, we'll go down to the Travel Expenses Summary tab and add 78 miles at a rate of the 2021 rate. From there, we'll select Next. We're going to now confirm our grand total equals our invoice. Select the files as necessary. Be sure to select the I Certify checkbox and then click on Submit. If everything is filled in properly, you should not receive any errors, and our form was successfully submitted.